Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Arsenal Ramble. It's another great day to be an Arsenal fan. We went away to Craven Cottage today and beat them a handsome 3-0. Now, as always, I'm joined by my co-rambler, Dave. Dave, how are you doing today, my friend?
I am very good. I am very, very good. That's five Premier League wins on the bounce since that little bit of a rut that we had in February. So that is great stuff to see. Yeah, it's obviously a really, really convincing win today. So absolutely buzzing about that. How are you, mate? You all good?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. And rut? What rut? It almost seems like it didn't even happen. We've just completely glazed over it now. Didn't happen. Still 5 points clear at the top of the table, exactly where we want to be. And as you said, absolutely ecstatic with that.
Yeah, I would call it more of a blip than a rut, actually. I'll correct myself on that one. But obviously, I was really super excited to see some of these returning players from injury, and there was obviously a lot of talk midweek about losing players to illness, like Tierney and Odegaard, that we obviously saw midweek against Sporting Lisbon. We've got players like Trossard and Jesus out with injuries, and to see the news the night before that broke from some reputable journalists that certain players like Trossard and Jesus may be fit for this game, I was sort of just refreshing my Twitter feed, waiting for that 1 o'clock team announcement just to see if that was true. And obviously, as we'll get into, it was. So really, really great to see that.
Yeah, I think I was exactly the same, especially with the whole Jesus thing, because of all the rumours that came around midweek when we played Sporting Lisbon. I fully expected to see him maybe listed on the bench in that game. And for all the talk of that happening and him not even travelling, it made me rethink maybe all of this noise was just hearsay and he's not actually as close as he seems people are making out for him to be. But for us to see him on the bench at 1 o'clock today when we saw the team sheets, I think I was about to message you, but you messaged me. You got in there first, sort of thing. So you must have been doing the same thing. And it was like, oh my God, like everyone's going crazy that Jesus is back. And not even that, we managed to sneak a little Trossard back onto the starting 11 as well. And it's great to see that we're bringing back and rehabilitating these players a lot quicker than we thought that they would be out for. And these are all really key players, especially Trossard, someone who, when we bought him in January, we were debating whether he really had a place in our squad or if he was really going to be worth the money we even paid for him. But as we've seen in recent weeks and before his injury, he's been really, really useful. It's been such an asset to the Arsenal team. So to have those two key forwards back into our starting squad and on the bench, unbelievable.
It's a massive boost, isn't it? Because it wasn't too long ago, actually. I think it was post Sporting Lisbon that we were thinking we haven't really got many options up top at the minute. We've got, Saka, who's playing week in, week out, every minute available, it seems. We've got Nelson, who's obviously, on a high after that Bournemouth game, but hasn't played much this season, let's be honest. And then we've got Martinelli and that was about it, really, for our forward three. So to get Trossard and Jesus back in one game, it just seems like such a massive boost. And not only that, looking at that starting 11 plus bench, that is a very strong bench, isn't it? Like, it was one of the strongest benches I've seen in a very long time. Players like Jorginho available. We've got Smith Rowe, we've got all sorts of quality, Vieira to bring on, and this is still without an Nketiah available. So it's starting to look like the real strength in depth team that we knew we would have eventually. That's great to see for me.
Yeah. I'm just going to echo what you said there about the depth, especially. It's something that a team like Man City, who have been so successful over the last decade, has always seemed to have, where they have quality players in every single position to be able to swap in or swap out. So that's something which we've really been lacking. But even this season, at the start of this season, we'd have maybe 2 or 3 positions covered with someone that's competent. But for the vast majority of the team, there'll be a huge drop off if our main first starting 11 player got injured. But now you're looking, you've got centre backs, you've got potentially Kirill that can come in. I know he didn't have the best game the other day, but he could come in, or Ben White could even shift in there, do a job, and we can get Tomiyasu at right back. Zinchenko, we've got Tierney to replace him. And then, like you say, we've got Jorginho that can step into midfield, Vieira for Odegaard, and Vieira's really stepped up his performances recently as well. And then, yeah, we've got a luxury of all these different forwards that can play in different positions as well, which is quite essential. The fact that we've got Nketiah, Jesus, and Smith Rowe, who have all not even started today, and they're all absolutely quality players. But then you've got the likes of Martinelli, Trossard, who can swap either position, go on the wing, go up top. And you'd like to think that Jesus, Smith Rowe could also do that as well. So we've got strength and depth. We've got a variety of different positions, people can play. I'm sure if Xhaka's injured, for example, Zinchenko could push in there and Tierney could play left back. So, yeah, there's so much variety in our team and depth. And it's all coming right at the best time of the season when you're top of the league, 5 points clear with 11 games to go.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. The fact that we've now got 11 game running, or 12 game running, whatever it is, with a Jesus coming back as well. That is quite tantalizing. And I think we've actually now we've officially sort of ended that period where we've been without Jesus. I think to reflect back on how we've coped since November, I'm actually really, really happy. I know he's had his ups and downs, but he's also been nursing an ankle injury. And I think we were trying to manage that in certain games where typically he probably would have not played and recovered. But I think we tried to manage it, play him whilst he was nursing a little bit of an injury. I think he's put his body on the line for Arsenal when we needed him most. And yeah, it's not quite worked out for the latter stages of the games that he had before he went off injured. But especially in that United and Tottenham game, he was absolutely colossal. So I think upon reflection, to think that we've been without Jesus since November, I think he's done absolutely amazing. And I think if we actually do go on to win this Premier League, we'll look back at these months and really appreciate what he did for us. So yeah, I think we just owe him a lot of credit really for how he's performed. One thing I do want to mention actually that's on my mind is before this game there was a lot of people talking about like a potential European hangover. We've not had the best game against Sporting in midweek. We've rotated a fair few players, but still a lot of first teamers still did play and even came on as well. A lot of people were thinking that this could be a bit of a slip up for us, and we don't necessarily do that great when we've gone away in Europe and come back into the Premier League. Did that worry you coming into this game, or did you think that we could brush it off like we did?
Yeah, I actually was quite worried about that, just because what we've suffered from recently in games that we've struggled in is having kind of sloppy starts. And if you've played a game midweek, especially on a Thursday as well, so late on a Thursday, to then play pretty early on a Sunday, so you've only got 3 days or so rest, you're going to be worried about players, be it starting sloppily. We did exactly that against Bournemouth. We didn't set the world alight when we played Sporting Lisbon either. We kind of went into our shells a little bit. So, yeah, it was a worry for me. Fulham, they've not been any pushovers this season. They've gathered a lot of points, and they're where they are on the table with merit, with a bit of respect on their name, because they actually deserve to be there. So, yeah, it could have been a potential banana skin. We're going away from home as well. Let's not forget that. But as we see, absolutely came out the blocks today. And it's incredible, really. You don't always think that we're going to be able to blow teams away, but I feel like today, especially in the first half, we absolutely did do that. It was chance after chance, and yeah, especially making these golden opportunities to actually score as well.
It was just utter domination, really, wasn't it? And away from home as well. That's got to be a bit of a, I'm stamping my authority here. And it really did silence the crowd. All I could hear was the Arsenal fans, throughout the whole 90 minutes, to be honest. It felt like a home game. So, yeah, I think that was a massive boost. I also think it was a big boost that Fulham were without one of their best players, and that is Palhinha, who did get an accumulation of yellow cards, so he missed this game. And he is someone that ranks the highest with tackles in that midfield, and I think they're quite reliant on him. A little bit like us with Partey in a way. Like we sort of, a lot of our players is sort of channeled through Partey, and I guess they have elements of that to their game as well. And I think that was a big miss for them today, and it really did show, and we sort of capitalised on that.
Yeah, for sure. They've got a really strong spine, haven't they? Fulham, they've got like Leno in goal, who's competent. We've seen over many years, and then they've got Palhinha, and then Mitrovic, who's no slouch, and he's caused us many problems in the past. But yep, so we turned up in that first half, and we actually had a pretty good opportunity straight away, which we ended up scoring from. Martinelli down the left, and coming back in, and we just nicely finished it. But unfortunately, it was marginally offside. But that was the warning signs, wasn't it? From that moment that we were here to play, and Fulham trying to play a bit of a high line there, really. But we definitely caught them off guard.
Yeah, I noticed from minute one they were trying to press us when we were trying to pass it out from the back, and I couldn't just help but think, that is exactly what we want. Like, you keep doing that. And we'll come on to it a little bit later, but I think it was the first, or maybe the second goal, actually. There's probably about 30 odd passes before the ball actually hits the net, and we're just sort of working it around them and sort of drawing them onto us. And yeah, they really sort of played to our advantages. It was probably not the best tactical choice from the manager. But we like I just said, we capitalised on it massively, and yeah, it was an unlucky one. But what I did like about it was the fact that Arteta, from the minute that goal got disallowed, he was straight onto the players. Just keep it going, keep doing the same thing, don't let that psychologically affect you. The goal will come, or the goals will come. It's just a matter of time. You're doing the right things. That was a marginal call. And that's obviously exactly what they did. So that was really positive to see.
Yeah, exactly. And not long after that happened, a goal did actually come, but it wasn't from the way that we set up, and it wasn't actually from the way that they had tried to do this counter press. It was from a set piece, something which we haven't been doing recently. We've been complaining that we've not been scoring for set pieces for such a long time, and then all of a sudden, bang, bang, 2-2. We scored in the midweek in Saliba's goal against Sporting Lisbon, and then Gabriel went and did the same. What a header this was.
Yeah, I loved how they celebrated together as well. It's like a real little partnership there. It's just, for me, it's the best centre-back partnership in the league by a country mile. So yeah, I really liked that, how they ran off together. That was nice. But yeah, it is good because we actually talked about it on the podcast, didn't we? How we were using set pieces as a real string to our bow to get the advantages in games. Because sometimes that's what you need. You just need a solid set piece to really not sucker punch them, but let teams know that there's not just one way of scoring for us. There's multiple multiple ways, and that really sort of knocks the wind out of their sails a little bit. So yeah, another great header. And yeah, it's not much to say about it really, apart from the fact that he got away from his man really well.
Mm.
I think it's I don't know which player it was in the box, but it may have been Partey, and he just bumps into a player that's tracking Gabriel. And it's not a foul or anything like
Mm.
that, but it's just clever contact to disrupt his sort of run to match Gabriel's header, and allows Gabriel to get that free header essentially. So I thought that was really, really clever.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that you can do if you're an attacker, but you can't really get away with it if you're a defender. If you're trying to defend a corner, you can't be giving those little pushes away just in case you give away a penalty. But sometimes you can give a little love nudge here and there just to move them out of the way to be able to create some space for a different player. But it was also an absolutely wicked delivery from Trossard, wasn't it? It was just put on a plate, really, wasn't it? And it was just screaming out for Gabriel to rise up like a salmon and nestle that into the net. So that was an absolutely wonderful set piece, and it was well executed. But not long after that, his partner, I don't know if you saw this or not, but his partner Saliba thought, you know what, I'm going to try and one up Gabriel here, and he decided to try and turn into Beckenbauer, and he takes a couple of players on, gets himself about 35 yards out, and rifles a rocket. And when I say a rocket, this thing was traveling absolutely rapidly towards the goal. And to be fair, it does just sail over. But I thought, if he scores that, that's an absolute wonder goal. And he has definitely won up to Gabriel.
Oh, massively, yeah. Yeah, at first I had to like double check to see who it was, because just seeing Saliba in that position was just weird. But yeah, why not have a go? He's done it this season before, not as speculative as that, but he has scored a non-headed goal. So why not? And to be fair, he wasn't far off.
No, yeah, it wasn't far off the target. I think it just went over the bar, but unfortunate. But that's just how they're feeling at the minute. They're fancying the chances, and for the two guys at centre back to be bagging in the goals, they must be having a little competition between themselves, saying like, right, whatever you can do, I can do better, just on like a friendly, competitive level. But yeah, that's always good to see. But again, not long after that, we created more opportunities, and Trossard managed to get himself down the left through a good pass from the middle. And he does as Trossard does. He doesn't mess about. He does the easy, simple things really effectively, gets himself all the way to the byline, pulls it back, and he then puts in a nice little dinky cross into the box, which, Martinelli does what he does. And to be fair, Martinelli is completely unchallenged at the back stick. There's not even a player. He's not even trying to jump for it. He's literally passed it straight to Martinelli, and then he just nods it in. I don't even think Martinelli jumps. But yeah, the placement from Trossard was absolutely perfect, to be honest. But yeah, Martinelli, he scores, converts, and the defender should have done better, really. But yeah, another great delivery from Trossard.
Yeah, he should have definitely done better, because, like you say, it was essentially a free header, and I think that fullback was concerned with Saka the whole game, and if I'm being honest, he did actually do really well against Saka. He is a good defender, but this is the good thing about Arsenal. We've got an abundance of players that can score goals. We've got centre backs that can score goals. So if their game plan is to sort of mark out Saka, then someone else is just going to score in his place. And that it's not necessarily exactly what happened in that goal, but he's got one eye on Saka the whole time, and just that little distraction enables Martinelli to get into that space and to essentially nod it home. Like you say, he barely even had to jump. It was a real simple goal for him. And this was the goal that I was referring to earlier, where we're working it around the pitch. There's numerous passes, drawing them onto us with their press, and a really, really good ball out from the back to Xhaka, who's in acres of space, just drives into the final third, and actually dishes a not so great pass to Trossard. Trossard does really, really well to sort of bring that under his control, fakes the coming inside sort of pass back to Xhaka, which, you know, he often does do. But this is the beautiful thing about Trossard. He's so two-footed that a Premier League defender cannot predict what he is going to do, because he can go on either foot and be just as effective. And that's exactly what he does. He cuts onto his left and dinks a wonderful little cross to the back post. And yeah, it's just great to see. It's Santi Cazorla-esque.
Yeah, he really is a wicked player, isn't he, Trossard? I think there was even a moment where he had a shot that went just past the post. But in that moment, he had the ball at the edge of the box, and it kind of was reminiscent of. Do you remember when Ronaldinho scored that wonder goal against Chelsea, where he had the ball at his feet and he didn't have any backlift or anything? He just kind of like shimmied his body left and right and then just hit the ball, but generated loads of power on it. It kind of reminded me of that. He was stood there, edge of the box, and then he was just, it was almost like he was deciding which foot do I hit the ball with? I could go left, I could go right. And I think he actually ended up going with his left. I'm not quite sure, but then it ends up bending away from the post ever so slightly. But he has got everything in his locker. He's got speed over a short distance. He's got agility, technical ability, his low center of gravity, and then obviously he's got a great delivery and a great shot on him as well. So what an amazing addition to our squad Trossard has been. And as we're talking about it today, he's got the 3 assists of the half. And what a stat to have in one half as well, 3 assists. But yeah, so that was his second assist. And then we'll get on to his third assist. But before that, we had a really interesting passage of play. Now, this would have been, I'd say, maybe goal of the season, where we have 2 or 3 one-touch passes, but these passes were about 15, 20-yard passes. They weren't just like little tiki-taka ones. They were one-touch, precision passes. There was a dummy, and then it went into, I think it was it Trossard or Martin Odegaard, who's the final pass? I think it was Martin Odegaard. I'm not 100% certain. Goes into him, who then lays it off to Xhaka. And Xhaka, he's literally got all the time and space to be able to hit this, let this fly. It's on his left foot, his favoured foot. The keeper's starting to come out. And for some reason, he decides to take a touch. And everyone's going, what are you doing? First of all, you shouldn't be taking a touch anyway. But if you haven't got the ability of maybe like a Martin Odegaard or a Trossard to be able to have a really deft touch and maybe chip it over the keeper, you're great at Xhaka, for Christ's sake. Like, you've got a great shot on you. You're great at you're good at a lot of things, but being deft and running around the keeper is not that. You're not that guy. It's not going to happen. So he should have just let this fly on his left foot as soon as it came in, shouldn't he?
Yeah. I was gutted not because I wanted the third goal or anything like that. Well, obviously I did want that, but not because I thought it was like going to impact the result of the day. Just because I wanted that goal to go in, because like you say, it would have been a phenomenal goal, and it sort of had like elements to that Jack Wilshere goal against Norwich all those years ago, and that Rosicky goal that's quite similar as well. It just sort of reminded me of that a little bit, all these little deft touches, and the Fulham players just absolutely bamboozled by it, the speed of play. So it would have been, like you say, it would have been a really good goal to score, and one that probably would have gone down, and we'd be talking about it in 10 years' time, sort of thing. So it is a shame, but I think this sort of echoes and sort of reminds me of what I was saying a couple of podcasts ago about that evolution of Arteta's team, and how I really do see that number 8 role being a bit more of a technically sound player, someone that can sort of take those chances. And we've seen it from Xhaka this season. He has scored more goals than he's accustomed to, but I think a more technically gifted player, like a Vieira, who we've tried there in recent games, would certainly add a lot more goals to this team. Yeah, it's a shame, but
Yeah, I was just about to say, do you think that a Vieira or a Smith Rowe would be burying that?
Well, they've certainly got more of a chance for sure. Like, Granit Xhaka's got many strengths, but this isn't one of them. And like I say, and I see the next step in this team being a player in that position that can do what Xhaka does, but also
Mm.
adds a little bit of creativity and a little bit of a goal presence as well.
Yeah. I think it's also just a testament to the way that we set up and the way that we're literally pulling the Fulham players from pillar to post. We're keeping our wide players so wide on the wings so that they have to be stretched out. And then why on earth have we got Granit Xhaka in this position just next to the Peno spot, basically, where he can take a shot on goal? Like, how has that happened? Because he's been given the license to be able to go wherever he wants, really, because we've got all these creative players making these runs. And he's one where Partey's going to sit, he's going to anchor the midfield. Xhaka, you go do what you want to do. So if we're going to have a more technical, creative player who's great with making runs and has a great finishing ability, then I'm all for it.
And this is the beautiful thing about this team, because it stems right to the back line. Gabriel is really sound on the ball. His passing ability has improved massively. He's fast. He can cover that left back position, which essentially Zinchenko fills. Well, so say Xhaka bombs forward, Zinchenko fills his position. Gabriel fills Zinchenko. It's such a constant sort of flow. And we saw it in this game when Zinchenko was bypassed. Gabriel was there to step in. His pace is phenomenal, and his one-on-one defending has improved massively as well. And it's really difficult to stop us from having the ball when we're that competent at keeping it and going forward and controlling play.
Yeah, there's so many automatisms that Arteta has developed in this team. So, everybody knows each other's role and they always know where to step in or where to back off. And it is as you say, they're like water. They're all one together, and they know exactly where each other's going to be. And if someone's overcommitted, they know where to go to be able to snuff that out. And from a pressing perspective as well, they know if one player's going to one area, they know to either back off or let them get the ball and then press. It's really spectacular to watch, really. The fact that this has all come from design and all come from the coach and the staff to be able to drill it into these players. Because let's not forget, these are a lot of these players we've actually seen over the last couple of seasons that weren't doing this before. So it's not like they're just gifted players that can do it. This is drilled into them, and they really starting to get it now. And it's taking a bit of time, but wow, we're reaping the rewards of it, aren't we? But yeah, so not long after all of that happened and that Xhaka goal that we really sadly missed, we actually did end up getting a third in the first half. It was Martin Odegaard that converted that again from another great Trossard run on the left hand side, who then he just cuts it back to Odegaard. And to be fair to Odegaard, he's had a few of these recently where he's either scuffed it or dragged it wide, or he even had that open goal, didn't he, which he dragged wide as well. So for him to just absolutely, welly it straight into the net, like no messing about, it's got in, captain's goal. You're thinking, right, we're 3-0 up, it's half time, happy days.
Yeah, and this all sort of started with Partey again, didn't it? Like we always sort of wax lyrical about Partey, but he's so crucial at intercepting that ball right on the halfway line, and driving and creating the whole thing, all from a defensive-minded player. So it's all down to this this fluid sort of play that we have with Partey. The fact that he can do these things, and yeah, again, another assist for Trossard, 3 in 45 minutes, which is he's had more assists than Son for Tottenham in 45 minutes than he's managed all season. This is phenomenal stuff. I know I've already talked about it a little bit, but just what a signing! What an absolute impact he's made. And you look at the player we almost signed in Mudryk, who's really not adapted as well as maybe we would have thought or Chelsea would have thought. And I think yet again, our plan B has sort of worked perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, you look at when we tried to sign Dusan Vlahovic, we didn't get him. We pivot to Jesus. We tried to get Lisandro Martinez. We pivot. We go to Zinchenko. All of these players that are our plan Bs. You know, in hindsight, looking back, you're thinking they should have been our plan A, and it's all worked out perfectly. And Trossard, it seems like he's another one of those because yeah, it's a lovely little cutback to Odegaard, and he scores perfectly, which is 9 goals and 7 assists now for Odegaard, which is smashed his all time tally for any club he's played for. Um, you know, so he's really having his breakthrough season at the minute for Arsenal, and yeah, just another captain,
Mm.
fantastic performance really from him.
Yeah, and it's so great to see that Odegaard looks like he's finally found his home, because he's a Norwegian boy. He had that massive money signing to Real Madrid when he was still basically a kid, and everyone had seen the football compilations of him saying, "Oh, this guy's going to be massive," and to have that amount of pressure go on your shoulders when you join a team like Real Madrid, especially when they still had players like Bale, Ronaldo, and Benzema and stuff. You're thinking this guy, he's got a lot to live up to, and then he's gone out to these Real Sociedad, and he even went back to Norway, didn't he? Was it Norway or was it? I can't remember. Anyway, he was a bit of a journeyman, and he looked like he didn't know where his final club was going to be. But when he came to Arsenal, he had that loan spell. I think he just fell in love with the club, fell in love with the fans. Obviously, over in Norway, the Premier League's massive over there for them, and Arsenal's always been a big team in the Premier League. And yeah, ever since he's become captain, he's been putting in amazing performances week after week. He has a little dip in form every now and then, but that's to be expected. And he just lifts up the whole place, doesn't he? I always feel a lot happier when he's on the score sheet for some reason. It just makes me feel like he's going to have a good game in the next game he then plays. It's almost like his confidence is going up another level. And yeah, he's a joy to watch. But it's also interesting what you said about the whole transfers that we didn't make. Also, they flop afterwards. As you say, like Modric and Vlahovic. It is really interesting to me that our plan Bs do then go on to be so good. It makes me think, is it because Arteta's that good of a manager and our coaching staff are that good that whoever we get that can fit that can fit the bill, he can then mold them into being a great player for the team that he's got? So, for example, if he did get his plan A's, would Mudryk or would Vlahovic have been great assets to our team? Or do you think we dodged a bullet with those? Because I think it's got to be somewhere in the middle, because these guys, you can't have all that recruitment of wanting these players, putting bids in for them to then come and flop. I think there is a certain extent where these massive players, they could have come to Arsenal. Like, say, we'll just isolate Mudryk, for example. I think if he came to Arsenal, I genuinely do think he would have performed a lot better than he has done at Chelsea. What do you reckon to that?
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, Mudryk in our team would have done better than 1 assist, that he's managed in however many games. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, because for some, like a Dusan Vlahovic, for example, he's a certain profile that it doesn't really suit our system per se. He's a bit of a bit of a target man, a little bit like Darwin Núñez in a way for Liverpool. And I'm not quite sure whether that would have sort of taken us to the next level like Jesus has. Because we've talked about it a million times. Jesus doesn't actually score that many goals, but what he does do is create chaos, create chances. So it's made us a better team. Whereas we've seen with you know, there's plenty of people that would say City are actually a worse team with Haaland, yet he
Mm.
scores a hell of a lot of goals. So you know, we could maybe have been in that sort of situation. It's really hard to say. It's all just guesswork, isn't it? But you know, ultimately, I think we've all got faith now, haven't we, with Arteta and Edu
Yeah.
and their decision making in the transfer window. Um, and you know, it's it's great because we've been so used to just to not having that feeling at all, and to almost feeling like questioning why are we signing this player? It doesn't fit the mold, or even certain positions that we'd be signing for, and you'd be thinking, well, we don't even need to strengthen there. Like, well, what's going on there? But now
Yeah.
the fan base and the Edu and Arteta, they all just seem in sync, you know. And even now with what's going to happen in the summer, we can all see that a central midfielder is exactly what this team needs. And it seems like with the rumours with Declan Rice and whatnot, that's exactly what they're going to be going for. So it just seems like everything's just
Mm.
in sync now.
Yeah, it's almost like whatever's echoed from the fans, it will then feed its way to the club, and it's almost like they're listening to what we're saying. You know, we've always said for many years, like we'd say when Arsene Wenger was there, we're like, look, we really need a decent centre back. Like we need a decent centre back or a centre defensive mid. We need it. We're in dire need for it. And then Arsene Wenger's like, okay, I'm going to get a young French winger. That's what we need. And it's almost like that they didn't listen to the fans, and obviously there's a certain extent where they know what they're doing, they can control it themselves, kind of thing. But yeah, it is nice that where it seems like they're doing the obvious things right, and it's obvious to all of us, it's obvious to all of them, and they're doing it correctly now. So yeah, it's amazing. And to talk about Jesus, the second coming of Jesus, just before Easter, so it's a bit before schedule. He has arisen, and he came back onto the pitch, and wow, he definitely picked back up where he left off. He does a lot of nice, fancy footwork, creating chaos, running down the pitch and popping off, getting nice balls, getting into great positions, and then missing the target, not scoring. This is the Jesus that we love, though. That's what we love about him. He gets us into positions where we can score, and if it falls to his feet, then unfortunately it does seem like it's not going to go in. But
you know, he did look really sharp though, didn't he? Like, you know, when you compare him to how Smith Rowe's come back into the team, I know he's had a lot longer out, but you can just see how much more Smith Rowe's got to get to before he's anywhere near what he was doing before his injury. Whereas Jesus, like, I barely even noticed a difference in his sharpness. He was turning players, he was coming in deep, spinning players, taking them on, whipping good balls in. I think Odegaard missed a really good one where he sort of, you know, whipped it back to him on the edge of the box. Yeah, and like you say, Vieira dished a nice little pass off to the right to him, and he probably should have just slotted it in the corner, but he sort of wildly shot it at Leno, didn't he? And I think he does get a bit of a bad rap for not being clinical, because there are times where he really does just slot them away nicely and could even create goals out of something that you wouldn't necessarily think we shouldn't be scoring from there. If you can remember the first half of the season, I can't remember who it was against. It might even have been Fulham actually at home. But Xhaka whipped like a really obscure crossing, and he sort of really arched back and nodded a header from a really awkward angle into the far post, and that's not the sort of goal I would have attributed to a Jesus, you know, from his previous goals. So, you know, he can do it, and I think that's the next step with Jesus. Can he start firing in goals consistently? And I've got a funny feeling that will happen. It's just he was in a little rut before his injury, and but that's not necessarily something that he's always been in. You know, it's even at City, like he'd always eventually come out of it and then start firing again. I mean, I remember before we just signed him, he knocked in 4 goals in one game for City. He's got this ability to be able to do that. And maybe it's a bit of confidence, who knows? But I'm so glad to see him back on the pitch, and it's just going to be an absolute massive boost for this final title push. And yeah, I think he's going to now really be a big part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And if he wasn't desperate to score before he got injured, then he absolutely will be now post injury, having all that time on the sidelines and seeing everybody else get on the score sheet. He is going to be hungry for goals. And as you said about that goal that he scored with his head, the awkward angle one, those are the sort of opportunities which and I don't want to say anything too bad about Nketiah, because he's done quite well and he's deputised pretty effectively since Jesus has been out. But those headers in the middle of the box are the sort of ones which he missed against. I think it was City. I think he missed one against Everton as well when we were away. You know, the 5 or 10 yards out, but they're coming in quickly, kind of awkward headers. And that's the one that Jesus scored. So it just shows you the difference of quality between the two. And also he created a lot of opportunities which you wouldn't expect him to create. I think most notably where he was at the byline and he dribbled around 2 or 3 players and then just popped off to someone who then scored. I thought Nketiah is not creating that goal. If it falls to his feet, he might try and recycle the ball to the edge of the box and then put in a delivery, but he's not taking on 2 or 3 players and then popping it off to someone for a tap in. So yeah, he is a bit of an enigma of a player. He's a player that defenders don't know what he's going to do. They don't know how to mark him. And then if they do mark him, then that gives license to players like Martin Odegaard, Saka and Martinelli to do whatever they want and go wherever they want, which is also a problem. So we've got problems all over the pitch for defenders now, and it's incredible. It's not easy to mark any of our players. Nketiah, to a certain extent, you know what he's going to do, you know where he's going to go. Whether you can stop him or not, that's another question. But generally, you know what Nketiah is about. He's a fox in the box. He's going to try and get the ball to his feet and have a dig. But Jesus, even the way that he's not the biggest guy, but he just can roll the defenders so easily and get the ball. A ball's dropping down from a 50-yard pass. He can just kill it dead, control it, and then roll a defender and then get a foul. And those are the sort of things that we need to be able to get us up the pitch and create chances. So yeah, to have him back in the team, have obviously Trossard with his contributions as well. It's just everything's looking great at the minute. Everything's looking up.
It was a massive boost ever since those, like I said earlier, those reports came out that Trossard and Jesus might be in the matchday squad for this game. I think it just massively lifted the whole fan base, and it stemmed right through to the fans today. You know, it's pushed us on for this 3-0 thrashing away from home. I think we'll all still be invigorated, and it's going to massively help in these next few games. We're going to need the fans against Sporting midweek. We're going to need him again against Palace at the weekend. And yeah, this positivity, it's infectious, and it does transpire to the players. And and like just to echo what you said a little bit more about Jesus, earlier in the season when we had the defeat to Everton and the draw against Brentford, teams were playing that real low block, weren't they? And essentially double manning Saka and Martinelli, which limited Nketiah's service, which made our goal threat next to none in certain terms. However, with Jesus back now, that's going to sort of nullify that tactical play for opposition teams, because, as you were saying, Jesus, he's not just going to be that fox in the box sort of player. He just goes wherever the space is. He really draws men out and really causes problems. And this is not necessarily Nketiah's strength. So to have that back again and to nullify that tactic is going to be great, because we are going to be coming up against a few teams that may look to have done that. And I think like today is a classic example where they thought if they'd have tried that, they'd have probably got beaten 6-0. So they had to press us. It still ain't going to work. You know, teams know what we're going to do. They just can't do anything about it. And it's great.
Yeah. It is really good. And it's great that we've got all these different personnel, different players that can just pull them apart. And if there's ever a score line, or if there's ever an ideal game that I like, a game scenario that I want to happen, it is for us to go 3-0 up in the first half. If we could have that in every single game, I would be happy for the rest of the season, because it has actually been quite refreshing that over the last 2 months or so, we've had either bad results or last minute stressful winners where we've been losing most of the game or drawing most of the game. And all the football has just been so stressful, and I've not actually been able to enjoy the match. I can watch the match through, be stressed out, enjoy the finish when we actually end up winning it, and then watch it over and enjoy the game again. But I've not actually enjoyed a game of football properly, apart from this game, because we went 3-0 up, and I could just sit back, second half, feet up, yeah, job done. And that's what I want. When we're playing against teams like this, I want us to be thrashing them, getting a quick start, getting the points basically on the board, getting the game over. We don't want to be having these close-knit games. I know they're incredible when you, like the Bournemouth game, when you win like that, the feeling, it's amazing, all the endorphins you get. But we should just be rolling teams, because that's what City do, and that's why they've been so effective, and that's why they can string 12 to 15 wins in a row together quite easily. And that's why we're looking over our shoulders. Even though we're 5 points clear with 11 games to go, we're still looking over our shoulders thinking there's a good chance that Man City could just win every single game until the end of the season. So we've got to either, you know, do better than that, or not lose more than one, or not lose to them, for example, because they are that good. And this is the sort of game, if you want to be champions, where you should be winning 3-0 in the first half. We should be doing that. And, you know, it's a sign of the times that we're actually starting to do that. We're starting to progress, and we're putting these sort of games to bed, because in the past, even at 2-0 at the past, we might have, you know, sat on 2-0, got to half time, and then the game might have drifted a little bit. 60 minutes, bam, Fulham score from a corner. All of a sudden, you're 2-1, you've got 30 minutes, backs against the wall. You might be dropping 2 points here. So for us to get the game done and dusted in the first half, unbelievable.
Yeah, it really took the pressure off things, didn't it? And yeah, that's exactly what you want as a fan. But I can't help but get so sucked into this title dream now that I'm almost not enjoying it. The pressure is so much that I'm almost thinking, you know, like it gets overwhelming. And I need to remind myself sometimes that, you know, football is about enjoying it game by game. And, you know, the fact that we're even in this title race with 11 games to go is just amazing. So, you know, I do have to keep reminding myself of that and just to enjoy it. And, you know, if we don't do it, then how great is it for Arsenal to be competing for titles again? Because, you know, we're both, you know, I'm 31, you're a little bit younger than me, but I've never really witnessed this as a fan. So to even be, you know, in with the shout of the title is amazing. And yeah, it's tough. It is a lot of pressure each game, but yeah, to knock it off at half time is great, because you can just sort of sit back a bit, can't you, and just enjoy it and just really sort of revel in the fact that you know you're going to win.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think it's true what you say, but the fact that we've not actually been in contention to win the Premier League, apart from maybe 2016 when we went toe to toe with Leicester at a certain period, but for over the last 20 years or so, we've really not been up there at all. So yeah, for us to be this in this position at this time of the season, 11 games to go, of course we're going to get excited, aren't we? But I think that one of the main reasons why we're so reluctant to want to get the party banners out is obviously remembering what was happening this time last season, where the ultimate goal was to get that Champions League football. We were sat, I think, 5 points ahead of Tottenham with not too many games to go. And then it all kind of fell apart at the end and we were heartbroken. And I don't think anyone for a long time wanted to put all of their hopes and dreams into getting something because, you know, it could ultimately just fall apart like it did last season. So that's why with an even more far-fetched goal than getting Champions League, you know, winning the title, that's why no one's going to really believe it until, I don't know, maybe we've actually mathematically achieved it, I guess.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, even with like 3 games to go, I'm still going to be like panicking. But what is good is the last few games for us. I think the last 3 are very winnable games for us. There's like a bit of a not purple patch, but a tough patch, I should say, from sort of late April to early May, where we've got like Chelsea, City, and Newcastle away, all in like 3 consecutive games or something like that. And I think that is the period that I'm dreading because that's, I think, where we're either going to win it or we may lose it. So, you know, that's the stage that I'm really dreading. But, you know, 5 games ago, we also said that all these next 5 games are so important because they're all 5 winnable games. And if we don't win them, then we're screwed when we come to that period where we've got the tougher games. But we're here now, 5 games later, 5 wins. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be interesting to see what sort of predictions we actually made, because I'm pretty sure we did do one, but we'd have to go back and check that out and maybe do it on the next episode. But what's also worth noting is the fact that in early February, late January, there was a 3rd team in contention for this title race. Manchester United fans were, you know, they were really giving it the big and saying, "Oh, we're coming for you. We're plugging away. We're getting these good results and stuff like that." And to see how cataclysmic they've fallen apart recently compared to how well we've actually performed, just putting this into perspective, if you look at the league table right now, they sit 16 points behind us in 3rd place. So we in 1st place are 16 points ahead of 3rd place. That is incredible. We're 18 points ahead of Spurs, by the way, in 4th place, which is also pretty hilarious. But yeah, 16 points ahead of 3rd. This is now, I think we can say, I don't know if this was decided before today or not, but in my mind, it is a 2-horse race from now on. It's a straight shootout between Arsenal and City until the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know they've got a game in hand, haven't they? But, you know, like to drop points against Southampton, that is pretty bad. Grimsby Town beat Southampton. So, you know, that... You know, that says it all. So, you know, it's a 2-horse race. And you know, Casemiro got sent off as well, so that's 4 games now he's missing, and we know how much they rely on him. So I can only see them sort of dropping more and more points as these next games come thick and fast. It looks as if they've secured Europa League last 8, I think, because they've essentially killed off. I can't remember who they played against now. It was a Spanish team, but so they're going to have more games in the Europa League. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if they put all their eggs into the Europa League, because, you know, they're looking more likely of dropping out the top 4 than challenging for a title, to be honest.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it does seem like at the minute, it's like the top 4 is lava and all of the teams don't want to touch it. Like, for example, you know, Spurs dropping points to Wolves, Liverpool going and losing against Bournemouth, and then, as you say, Man United dropping points to Southampton. It's quite funny to see all these teams that historically, especially over the last 5 or 6 seasons, we've been in and around them. It's been like our kind of level. Maybe not Liverpool, they've been a bit above us, but the likes of Man United and Spurs, and then Chelsea, who are all the way down there in 10th as well. It's amazing to see all these teams not doing great and us being, well, flying high, aren't we? And I'm going to keep grinning from ear to ear, because why should we not enjoy it? we should absolutely enjoy it. And as long as we can do the same, we can match Man City, keep this 5-point gap going for as long as we can, because we may end up needing that cushion, especially when we play them away. I think we've got the facilities to maybe get a result in that game, but it's important that we maintain that gap, isn't it?
Yeah, we were chatting about it earlier, weren't we? Like, I think if we were to keep all of our main starting 11 players fit, I think we've got a pretty good chance. We haven't played City with a Saliba and a Gabriel at the back, with a Partey in midfield and a Jesus up top. We haven't. That's never happened. And I think if that happens, that will be a very close game, home or away. I think at the very minimum, you know, we should be drawing that. And a draw would be, I'd take a draw. You know, a draw would be massive because, you know, then it's still within our grasp. It's still within our grasp even if we lose it. We're 5 points ahead of them essentially, so still within our hands technically. It's just there's too many games to go to be talking like this. To be fair, but yeah, come that game, but a draw would be. I'd take it, but I think we've got more than enough to be able to beat City nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is getting to that point though. I know you say we've got a lot of games left, but it is getting to that point where you're looking at their games and you're thinking, oh, well, if they drop points here, and if we could just draw to them there. And like I've just been looking over the next few fixtures, for example. So City's next game is actually postponed. So we play Palace and City's postponed. So I'm thinking, oh, well, we might be able to get the psychological edge over City. If we get the points on the board, then they'll be like, well, we've got a game in hand, but you've not got the points on the board. So then that's like the reverse of what we had before kind of thing. And then the game following that is against Liverpool. So then I was also, this is all an internal conversation, by the way, that I had to myself on the sofa earlier, saying that, oh, well, they'll drop points to Liverpool and then that's it. We're 11 points clear of City and they've only 9 games to go. So it's crazy, but it's what football fans do, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to try and think like that sometimes. But that's a very realistic sort of prospect that we beat Palace and Liverpool beat City, and that would be huge, and that could quite easily happen. And I think if that does happen, I think City's mentality will probably shift to the Champions League, because we know how much Pep is wanting that trophy. He's not had it. It's the only thing he's not done with City. He's won numerous titles with City, and I personally think he would maybe start to think, let's start focusing on the Champions League. Let's start rotating a little bit in the Premier League. Who knows, that may benefit us. But we all know about City's strength in depth, and their rotated 11 is essentially still, a brilliant and amazing team. So, it's one of those, isn't it? It's hard to really say that it weakens them that much, but it's all ifs and buts at the minute. But psychologically as well, that sort of gap that those if those results were to happen would be pretty massive.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that we can actually get that. Is there anything else you want to add from today's episode about today's game, or?
Yeah, there's one thing I really want to add, and it's just a little bit about Arteta, really. This was his 100th win for the Arsenal, so I think it's a good opportunity to just talk about how he's done, really, as an Arsenal manager in general, from day one to now. To think about his journey from where it all started when he took over Unai Emery, and sort of the turmoil we were in, losing game after game after game. Arteta comes in, sort of doesn't give you that instant impact that sometimes you can get from a manager, like that sort of new manager bounce. But what he did give us was sort of hope, in a way. I just had this sort of belief in Arteta from day one that, given the time, everyone quotes that. What's the quote that Ozil belittled Arsenal about? It's all in the process, or What is it? I can't remember what it's called.
Something like that. Trust the process, isn't it?
Trust, yeah.
Can't remember,
Yeah.
can't remember what it was.
I don't know why that's escaped me, but essentially, that is something that was sort of thrown around a lot with Arteta. That trust the process, and he almost, you know, I bought into it from day one, and you could see that there was sort of like stages of what he was trying to do with recruitment, and sort of it all stemmed from that, and the players that he was trying to sort of build his team around, and you know, he got an FA Cup within his first season, when no one really thought we had any chance of that. We had to beat City, Chelsea to be able to claim that, so it was fully deserved in the end. And it's just sort of gone strength to strength to strength from there, really, hasn't it? Have you got any more you want to add on Arteta's journey to these 100 wins?
Yeah, I think it's worth noting as well. I think it's 100 wins in about 168 or so games, which is about a 60% win rate, really, which is pretty impressive considering the first couple of seasons he had to then actually get players into the team. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't his team that he came in with. So to get those players performing to a certain degree, and then obviously, as we see, this is his main team now, and we've had a lot of the portion of wins from that chunk just in this season. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way he's performed. And sorry if you can hear my cat that's just meowing because she walked in.
But yeah, you don't often sort of have a manager in the Premier League where you're just thinking, I hope we can keep this manager for as long as possible. I remember we're having it with Arsene Wenger, and we were almost thinking, you know, please never leave us. You know, if Real Madrid come calling, which they obviously did, if the French national team come calling, please don't leave us. I have that sort of exact same feeling with Arteta. I just hope that he sticks around with Arsenal for the long term, because you know I just trust everything about him, and anything that he thinks is right for Arsenal, I'm behind it. And it's great to have that. I think the difference in the fan base as well at the Emirates. I think he's a big part of that. And yeah, it's just really infectious. And I think, you know, if it wasn't for him, we could be in such a different position right now. So yeah, full credit to Arteta, and yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, exactly. Like as you say, with the fan base as well. So he's transmitting energy to the fans, who are then transmitting energy to the players, who are then performing, which then makes the fans more happy. So then there's more energy, and it's just a snowball effect of everyone being happier and more energized and performing better, and then everyone's happy. So it's something that he's really done effectively by getting the fans on side. And I don't think he will leave, even if this massive offer does come in from quite a sizable team, because he's spent years being able to get the trust of the club, getting pretty much, he's got the club on strings now, like whatever he says he can get pretty much. So for him to finally be in that position, I think he's worked too hard to get this team, and he's got a future and he's got a plan for this team. I can't see him leaving. I think the project means so much to him that for him to then have to go and restart and go somewhere else, it just seems like a bit of a waste. But then at the same time, you know, if like a Barcelona comes calling, that's his home club, they've probably pay more money and in his home country. So you never know. You never know. But great to see him get his first 100 wins, and long may that continue to get the next 100. So
yeah, I can.
Sorry, what are you saying?
I was just going to say, and I can see that, you know, happening in a quicker time frame than it happened for the first 100. You know, I can really see the evolution of this team, and yeah, like you say, long may it continue.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's going to round off today's episode. Arsenal beat Fulham 3-0 at Craven Cottage this afternoon. What an incredible result. hopefully we can just keep churning them out, keep getting the wins, keep doing 1-up on City every week. But next week we will play and City won't. We've got Crystal Palace, and I believe that's at home. So, because we played the away fixture at the start of the season, didn't we? So we're playing Crystal Palace at home, and we're going to be doing a podcast after that game. But before that, we have the massive home fixture against Sporting Lisbon in the second leg. Now it's 2-2 tied at that game, so hopefully we can manage to get over the line and progress through to the quarterfinals of that competition. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's Arsenal Ramble _, and on YouTube, it's just Arsenal Ramble. Okay, cheers, guys. See you later.
Take care. Bye.